we're not going to waste too much time this evening, morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for being here with me. If you're stopping by for the first time or for your 10th time or 100th time, please do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be talking about Don Lemon. That's right. The journalist, the ex-CNN journalist Don Lemon, who was arrested for protesting in a church in Minnesota. A week or two ago now. So we're going to take a look at what's going on with that. And again, hit the like button. We're getting back in the algorithm. I know you guys haven't been seeing me live recently, but that's all right. We're going to do our thing, and we're going to cover these topics. We're going to cover the news, and I hope you guys subscribe to the channel, and I hope you guys hit the like button. And also, I'm going to go ahead and say this at the beginning of the stream, because sometimes at the end of the video, I forget to say it. So once this video ends, after you hit the like button and after you hopefully subscribe, don't forget to leave a comment. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the video. Let me know what you think about the topic that we talk about. And, it really helps with engagement. And, I know a lot of people, are very tedious about their videos, live streams. Well, me, I'm totally unorthodox. I might leave mistakes in videos. I don't really care about the perfect editing job. Sometimes I might mispronounce a word. I don't really care. My main focus and my main job is to get you guys the information, education, and if I can, a little bit of entertainment in between. Okay, so hit that like button. We're going to go ahead and get started. And before we get started here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit you guys. We're going to hit YouTube, and we're going to hit Don Lemon as well with the fair use disclaimer. This content may include copyrighted material used for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. This constitutes a fair use of any such copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. Boom. Got that out the way. Fair use. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the information here. Okay. So this first clip that we're going to be taking a look at, this is going to be covering Don Lemon when he stormed the church in Minnesota. And this is brought to you by courtesy of the New York Post. Let's go.
Disgraced ex-CNN anchor Don Lemon was arrested early Friday over the anti-ICE protests that stormed a Minneapolis church during Sunday service, according to his attorney and Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Lemon's attorney, Abby Lowell, said in a statement shared with multiple reporters. He was one of 4 people arrested by federal agents early Friday in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, Bondi later confirmed in a statement. Lemon, who had been documenting the increasingly violent protests following the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, live-streamed himself alongside demonstrators with the Racial Justice Network storming into the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota, as they called out resident pastor David Eastwood, whom they accused of moonlighting as the acting field office director for ICE in the North Star State. Some service disruptors chanted slogans heard at the dozens of other protests that have wreaked havoc around Minneapolis, while others specifically slandered Eastwood for supposedly misrepresenting the ideals of his faith through his support for ICE. Lemon spoke with the congregation's lead pastor, Jonathan Parnell, who said the bombardment was shameful.
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. it's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
The Department of Justice announced a probe into the demonstration at the church for potential violations of civil rights laws, specifically for interfering with Christian worshipers, according to a post on X. Harmeet Dillon, the Justice Department's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, chided Lemon on social media. A house of worship is not a public forum for your protests. It is a space protected from exactly such acts by federal, criminal, and civil laws. Nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo-journalism of disrupting a prayer service. You are on notice, she wrote. In a follow-up post, she noted that the FBI had been activated and accused the protesters of desecrating a house of worship. Lemon had dismissed calls for him to be prosecuted for joining in with the group and defended his actions as protected under the First Amendment. The MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true, Lemon said, claiming he had no affiliations with the organization, defending his actions as, quote, an act of journalism. Disgraced ex-CNN.
Okay, so that was the first video basically showing Don Lemon being a part of the protest in a church in Minnesota. And I will say this, I don't agree with that. You know, I think there's obviously more appropriate ways to go about protesting for your cause, or, you know, whatever you're protesting for. You know, there are innocent people. There are elderly people. Who's to say that when these protesters storm the church, who's to say that if there's an elderly person in there, let's say someone gets a heart attack, you know, from all of the pandemonium and chaos, you know, let's say a medical emergency happens, then what? So, I understand protesting, but I don't agree with storming the church. I really don't have too much more to say about that. We are in the era of, you know, views, likes, you know, how much money can I make off of this? So it doesn't surprise me that Don Lemon is a part of something like this, because, you know, this is kind of his thing, you know, and I'll give him props. You know, he is a boots to the ground kind of journalist. You know, he's kind of old school with it, so I'll give him his props. But, you know, as far as the method of disrupting the church service, yeah, I disagree with that. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at this next clip. This next clip is showing him after his arrest, showing that his press conference. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Make sure you guys hit the like button and the subscribe button. Let's go.
Run, watch out! Run it, clear it! Let him out! Come on, guys!
I need sunglasses.
Here, go down.
I'm good. How are you? Wow. Can everybody hear me? Are you guys set? Everybody ready? So look, I want to thank everybody for their support. It truly means the world to me. I have no idea what's going on because obviously I haven't seen anything. I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. In fact, there is no more important time than right now this very moment for a free and independent media that shines a light on the truth and holds those in power accountable. Again, I will not stop now. I will not stop ever. Last night, the DOJ sent a team of federal agents to arrest me in the middle of the night for something that I'd been doing for the last 30 years, and that is covering the news. The First Amendment of the Constitution protects that work for me and for countless of other journalists who do what I do. I stand with all of them, and I will not be silenced. I look forward to my day in court. Thank you all.
Okay, so that's basically what he had to say after his arrest. You know, we can see him right there with his husband. You know, they were galloping to the podium. So that's basically what he had to say after his arrest. And so then what we're going to take a look at next, we're going to take a look at his live stream that he did on YouTube addressing the arrest situation. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And don't forget, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Let's go.
So I have a lot of folks to thank, and in no particular order, but the mayor of Los Angeles was there, Karen Bass. I think it was fantastic. By the way, I don't know anything. Like, I have not seen the news. I haven't seen anything. I did not know. I've been getting feedback from everyone about what has happened. I had no idea that all of this turmoil was going on. I just thought, like, you know, it would be, I thought people would report on it, but not to this extent. So thank you guys, and hit the like and hit the thumbs up because it does affect the algorithm and more people become aware of our conversation and our show. And today is
exactly what he said. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Let's go.
A really important one, and it's important for our democracy and to the Constitution of the United States, and what the amendment that I believe is the bedrock of our democracy, and that is the First Amendment. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peaceably assemble, all of those things. This encapsulates all of that. And I'm glad that, at least to the extent that it has, that people are realizing the critical moment that we're in this country, that our rights are under assault. It may have started with people having their due process rights violated on the streets, violently violated on the streets. But now they're trying to silence journalists, and I will not be silenced. And I think journalists should not be silenced. I think this is a very critical time for journalists in this country to stand up to this tyrannical administration.
Okay, so I hear what he's saying. I hear what he's saying, and I get what he's saying. But is there a difference between trying to shut journalists up or trying to shut journalists up that violate the law, that violate protesting rights? And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. But let's hit the like button. Let's go.
And look, journalists are going to be, I believe they can be the folks that save us. I actually believe that artists will be the people that save us as well. And that's why I'm here in Los Angeles, is to cover the artists who are exercising their freedom of expression rights and creating fantastic music. And so I'll explain to you in a moment what happened, because I was actually covering, I had just been on the red carpet at the Black Music Collective, the Grammy Black Music Collective, and we were talking about the power and the importance of representation in music and black music. I had just seen Ketanji Brown Jackson. I just waved hello to her as she walked by. She didn't want to do an interview. I saw, Pharrell and all of the wonderful artists who are contributing to what's good in this country, the very best. But so look, I have been, guys, a journalist for 30 years, if not more. I'm a man of a certain age. I always say old people be knowing. And the only job or profession that is protected in the Constitution, I believe, and in the very First Amendment is a job that I do. It's a job that I have, and so many journalists around the world. So this is a moment for journalists, I believe, around the world. And I am so grateful to everyone who has voiced their support, who has put out statements, who has reached out to me, who has said, whatever you need financially, whatever support that you need, it has been overwhelming. And I do think right now that people understand that, again, this is a very critical time. And I hope that this continues and to support not just me. If I can be the catalyst for or the inspiration for people to say, finally, stand up to the powers that be in our government. And also, quite frankly, having come from corporate media for a long time, to stand up to the gatekeepers, the corporations, and say, no, I am not going to bend the knee to this administration.
And see, here's the thing. Okay, listen, again, I hear him. Okay. I understand that we have the right to free speech. I understand all that. But again, if you call yourself a journalist, and even, I would actually call myself a journalist. Now, I'm not hardcore with it. I'm not in the streets with it, but I do cover news. I do cover breaking stories. I do cover what goes on in politics. So, am I somebody that's out there, storming churches like Don Lemon? Absolutely not. But I would consider myself a journalist to a degree because I'm bringing information to the people. I'm bringing information to the public. And here's what I will say about that. If you consider yourself a journalist, one thing I will say is that I believe that your first duty of your job is to report the news, is to bring truth to light, to bring truth to power. But there's a very fine line between storming a church. You really have to understand your rights. And again, at the end of this video, we're going to take a look at some information, and we're going to see if Don Lemon was actually within his rights to do what he did. Let's go. Hit the like button.
I am not going to put on liars and insurrection deniers and election deniers. I'm not going to give my platform to those people. I'm not going to put people on television and give them a platform, people who come on just to lie and to offend and to insult people. It's insulting to the American people. This is not folly. It's not funny. This is not a game. If you look at any tyranny or any autocracy, any sort of dictatorship, the first thing they do is they get rid of the media.
Okay, so let's stop it right there. Now, I know there's a lot of people who like the current president that's in office. I know that there are definitely a lot of people who are not rocking with the current president in office at all. But I'll tell you what, this word dictatorship, Americans have no idea what it's like to live under a dictator or to live in a dictatorship. And I find it funny that typically it's the liberal media that they find these cliche terms to try to put on the conservative politicians, Republicans. And I'm not caping for the conservative politicians or the Republicans, but what I'm saying is the liberals are so spoiled that they just cannot sit back and, build a campaign to get the seats that they want or to get the person that they want in office. So they have to resort to name calling, and they use things like dictatorship and dictator. But I'll tell you what, Americans have no idea what it's like to live under a dictatorship. Americans have never had to live under a Saddam Hussein. We simply don't know what it is. And quite frankly, I think it's kind of a spit in the face for people in this world that actually have to live under a dictatorship. So that's why me personally, I always try to choose my words carefully because I want to make sure that I'm using the right verbiage to describe what I'm talking about. And me personally, I just don't think dictatorship is the right word to describe the current administration or the current president that's in office, because quite honestly, in my personal opinion, it's just not fitting.
They try to silence the media. Ask Turkey about that, Erdogan. Ask Iran about that. Ask any country that has lost its way, that has been overtaken by a dictator. They get rid of the press first. And so we need to start standing up. And I got to say that from what I've heard, I haven't had a chance to see it. I've heard that my former colleagues at CNN all came out pretty unanimously, pretty strongly to support me. I understand. I believe that CNN released a statement. I've heard that CNN released a statement. Thank you very much. I have no animus for CNN. I have no animus for anyone, but I tell the truth as about what I see. And I think it's time for all journalists to stand up for each other. So I appreciate that. And at CNN, I worked with the best journalists in the world. So I wish them nothing but the best. But I believe those journalists as well need to stand up to the corporation. They need to tell Warner Brothers Discovery, stop playing and get your hands out of the newsroom. CBS needs to tell Paramount and David Ellison and whatever, get out of our newsroom, get out of our journalism. Barry Weiss, take your hands off of it. Let the journalists be the journalists. All of them. That goes for every single corporate entity that owns a journalistic organization. Let the journalists be the journalists, because they're going to save our democracy if you just let them do it. The way to stand up to a bully, to a tyrant, is not to bend the knee. It's not to acquiesce. It is to metaphorically punch them right in the nose. And you need to introduce not only Donald Trump and the folks who work for him and his administration, but the corporate overlords and the gatekeepers. You need to introduce them to the word no.
Yeah, you know what I find funny is, and listen, I'm not a big Don Lemon fan, but I'm not a Don Lemon hater either. I could appreciate his passion. You know what's funny? There was a president called Joe Biden and a vice president called Kamala Harris. And if memory serves me correctly, when President Biden was in office, I think there was a lot of censorship going on. I think people were losing YouTube channels. People were getting kicked off of Twitter, Facebook. You couldn't say certain things. The censoring was really, really heavy. And it's 2026, and this wasn't that long ago. We're talking 2020, 2021. We're talking 5 years ago now, where there was a certain thing called a pandemic, and information started to come out about how certain things were just not true. And here we are 5 years later, 6 years later, and there is scientific evidence to prove that things that were said in those years about a particular thing is not true. And obviously, Don Lemon wants to talk about how when countries who are in a dictatorship, the first thing to go is the media. Well, it's funny because it seems that when America is going through has a Democratic president or has a liberal administration or is it a liberal phase, it's funny because that I guess that same media uses the propaganda to try to push their agenda into the face of Americans. The same media that Don Lemon is talking about right now uses their propaganda to, tell our boys and girls, our young children, that it's okay not to be the gender that you were born as. They use their media, or they use their propaganda to try to influence their voting base or the people that they want to hear their messages. So I find it funny that it seems that when there's a Democrat or a liberal in office, the media tends to do the same thing that he's talking about right now, but just at a different scale. Hit the like button.
All right, you got to stop buying generic Viagra if y'all $7 with free shipping.
All the journalists, they cannot fire you. We were always taught when I worked in corporate media that the news is a star. That's bullshit. If the news was a star, everybody would have the same ratings. And everybody doesn't have the same ratings. The journalists are the stars. The people who are delivering the news, those are the stars. And the people who do well, they get the ratings and they get the respect. So it is, and actually having come from that, and now I understand that what my star quality is, that is being honest and authentic and telling the truth. And I think that's, if everyone did that and they were not afraid of the powers that be, that's our motto. That's our mission. Just like a doctor, just like a lawyer, what we're supposed to do is hold the powerful to account and do no harm. And if you don't want to do harm to the American people, then stand up for democracy. Stand up for the First Amendment. So thank you so much. CNN journalists, I love you, Dana Bash. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Aaron Burnett. Thank you to all of the people over at CNN who I like. And thank you to the management and who I worked with forever for putting out a statement. And thank you to the folks on MSNBC. Thank you to Scott Galloway and to everyone. I got a funny note from Anthony Scaramucci just a moment ago. And he said, "We were on your show today, but you weren't there. You must have been busy." So I appreciate that humor, Anthony. But for so many people who have come on, look, I just want to tell you that. I also want to thank all of the folks who are, the foreign journalists who are in war zones. It's just everyone. Thank you so much. I mean, I am overwhelmed. I haven't had a chance to read but a few texts from folks. I just got off the phone with my mom for the first time, and she was worried, and my nieces and my family in Louisiana. And look, I got to thank some people who came to my rescue, and that's my husband, who had my back and who made sure that all of this was that it was handled properly and that my rights were not violated. I want to thank.
Now, I'm not hating on the brother's lifestyle. I'm not hating on Don Lemon's lifestyle. By now, everybody knows he's, a gay man. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna be honest. It's always gonna be a little bit off for me when I hear another grown man call another man his husband. And I'm not hating on his lifestyle because he has the ability to live whatever lifestyle he wants to live. But I just had to throw that in there, man. It's always gonna be a little bit off kilter for me when I hear another man call another man his husband. And listen, that's one of the, he's talking about a dictatorship. Hey, if we were really under a dictatorship, if this country was really ruled by a dictator, do you think that you would be able to call another man your husband in America? I think not. Again, proving that America is not ruled under a dictatorship. Because if America was ruled under a dictatorship, he wouldn't be able to call another man his husband. And again, I ain't hating. He can live how he want to live, just like I'm going to live how I want to live. But I'm just really saying, and I'm kind of low key calling out the hypocrisy, but make sure y'all hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and leave a comment at the end of the video. Let's go.
One of my dearest friends in the world and my agent, Jay Souris, who is there. And so Jay, I love you. Thank you. And Jay's wife, who just cooked me lunch because I haven't eaten for a while. And I want to thank, look, there's so many people. I don't even know how many people. And I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. My attorney, Abby Lowell, is amazing, who put out this wonderful statement for me. Allison Gallus, who's my PR person, who put out this wonderful statement and created a war room for me and a council and a board of directors, so to speak, a board of advisors for me. So thank you, Allison. And thank you, Jeff Zucker, for saying that you've never been prouder of me. High praise from you, my friend. Thank you. And Monique, I can't thank you enough for being on the air. I don't know how long you've been on. I heard there were so many people. I heard that was Monique, I think Charles Coleman, and just a whole host of others. Everyone who has reached out. Let me see, Tim. And thank you to the social team, Chris. And by the way, I had just left one of the guys in the social team. We had gone to the Black Music Collective to do the red carpet, to talk to people about the importance of music and the arts in this time that we're in. And then we went to the Spotify to see the new artists who are coming up. And I was so proud of them because they are creating a space in this world. And I got to talk to them and a lot of influencers and a lot of young people. And that's where our future is. So I'm out here not just going to parties to party. I'm out here interviewing people and doing the work as a journalist. That's why I'm here. I am here to do the Grammy red carpet. That's why I came, and not to, be at fancy parties or whatever, but to celebrate the First Amendment, the freedom of expression. So we'll see. Am I going to do? People have been asking me am I still going to do the red carpet? I don't know. I'll see. If we can celebrate and promote the First Amendment, then I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And I also want to thank my team. Last but not least, I saved the best for last. Well, not quite. So I did thank my husband, but I just want to thank my team, who just amazing. Thank you, Nikki and Peter and Andy. The best team in streaming. When we started this show, most of us, they hadn't. I think Peter and I were used to doing live because we came from cable news. But I don't know if Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and Nikki were. And we trained ourselves to do this show every single day, live, twice a day, at least 5 days a week, weekdays, and then sometimes on the weekends, and just to do network quality coverage. And you guys are just the best. I am so grateful and so fortunate to have you. And thank you so much. Monique, thank you for being my friend and my confidant and someone I can call on and talk to when I'm in need. Thank you, my former executive producer, Maria Spinella, who reached out, so many people. And then my friends, my very dear friends, who are my chosen family, all the guys, and you know who you are, John and Carrie and Steve and Tarek and Darren, the two Darrens. Who am I missing? Mario and Stefan, Robert and Gunnar, just all of you guys. Thank you so much. And just dear friends and people that I haven't heard from for a long, long time. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but thank you so much. I'm going to go back and look at everything. But again, a special thank you to my former colleagues at CNN, because I know that you are the best journalists in the world and that you believe in our country and this democracy. As I said in my statement, I haven't seen anything. I have not seen this, but this is a statement that I ran when I left the courthouse today. And I want to play that, and then I'll be back in a second. Here it is. I want to thank everybody for their support. It truly means the world to me. I have no idea what's going on because obviously I haven't seen anything. I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. In fact, there is no more important time than right now, this very moment, for a free and independent media that shines a light on the truth and holds those in power accountable. Again, I will not stop now. I will not stop ever. Last night, the DOJ sent a team of federal agents to arrest me in the middle of the night for something that I've been doing for the last 30 years, and that is covering the news. The First Amendment of the Constitution protects that work for me and for countless of other journalists who do what I do. I stand with all of them, and I will not be silenced. I look forward to my day in court. Thank you all. And I reiterate those words. I look forward to my day in court, and I look forward to proving my innocence. I believe in my innocence, and I believe in our right, again, to a very free and viable First Amendment. And look, just to all of the reporters who have been targeted and who have gone through this before, I support you, and I thank you for your support. Like my colleague over at the Washington Post, whose home was raided and devices were confiscated. We need to stand up for all journalists. So I stand with you, and I humbly bow, and I am grateful for all of your support. Okay. So I am exhausted. I am overwhelmed. I did not get much sleep, but I did get a little sleep, but not much. And by the way, so I'm going to be here. So hit the like, hit the thumbs up, become a member, support independent journalism, support independent journalists, support independent journalists, become a member to the channel, support all of us who are out here who are trying to.
Yeah. And I will say this to everybody that's watching this video as well as his video. Again, like I said, I'm not a hater. I definitely believe in independent journalism. So make sure that you guys support independent journalism, because I really do believe that your independent journalists are the future. Why? Because obviously whether you're left leaning or right leaning, doesn't matter what side you're on, it's going to be backed by the corporate media, which is, corporate sponsors, lobbyists, billionaires, millionaires. So people are going to be, paying for the media to push propaganda and certain narratives, So I would suggest, listen, whether it's Don Lemon, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, definitely support your independent media. It's important. It's important. And this is actually the end of the video. And so I did want us to take a look at one thing before we wrap up and get out of here. Appreciate you guys for rocking with me. Also, you guys can find me on Rumble, Zone 864 TV on Rumble. So that is where we're going to be doing that is where I say we, because if you're a subscriber to the channel on YouTube, you need to go over on Rumble and subscribe to Zone 864 TV. That's where I'm going to be doing most of my live streaming. So I'm going to be doing some uploads here on YouTube, but most of the live streaming on Rumble. So if you want to catch the live streams, go over to rumble.com/user/Zone 864 TV. That's going to get you over to my channel on Rumble. It's a little bit more of a freedom of speech thing, a little bit more uncensored over there. But like I said earlier in the video, because Don Lemon was arrested for storming a church and filming a protest that took place inside of a church, and that's what he was arrested for. So I wanted us to take a look at some information here. Just getting everything set up here. Okay. Think we're good to go. Okay. So, like I said, I'm a little bit of a journalist myself. So I like to make sure that when I'm speaking on certain things, that I can bring you facts and I can bring you information to back up the things that I say. So we heard Don Lemon say that he was looking forward to his day in court, which I would imagine is where he will learn whether he is going to be charged or not. Charged with what? I don't know. But he's going to learn what his fate would be for his actions for taking part in that protest inside of the church in Minnesota. So I did ask Microsoft Copilot. I said, the question that I asked is, where can you protest? So this is what Microsoft Copilot gave back to me. It says, you can legally protest in many public spaces, but the exact rules depend on where you are and what local laws require. In the U.S., the First Amendment protects peaceful assembly, but states, including Arizona, can set limits on time, place, and manner. Also, I'm asking, where can you protest? You can protest on sidewalks, parks, and streets are traditionally public forums where peaceful protests are protected. Cities may require permits for large gatherings, marches that block traffic, or use of amplified sound. Can you protest on private property? You cannot protest on private property without permission. Owners can ask you to leave, and refusing can lead to trespassing charges. And then as far as restricted areas, it says some states have laws restricting protests near critical infrastructure, government buildings, or judges and court officers. For example, proposed federal legislation would penalize protests near federal judges regardless of intent. It also goes on to state that disrupting religious services is illegal, even if the protest is peaceful. And so this is where the arrest comes in. This is where the law says, okay, well, let's go arrest Don Lemon and let's go arrest the people that disrupted that church service in Minnesota. So I wanted to look at that because I want us, again, the way that Don Lemon in that video just stated that the first thing under a dictatorship, the first thing to go is the media, because the dictatorship or whatever doesn't want the media speaking out against the government and blah, 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 blah. But with the information that we have today, I think that we can no longer take people's word. And I think that we have to do our own research so that we can get down to the bottom of things. So that's why I said, I think I'm a little bit of a journalist, and I think what I do is important as well. You know, and I think that Don Lemon is a pretty good journalist. I'm not going to lie. I think he's pretty good at what he does. You know, he's been doing it for 30 years. You know, who's to say I might not go out into and actually, you know, I've done my protesting. I've done my covering of protesting. You know, I've protested in the George Floyd protests, and other protests for social injustices, you know, things like that. So, you know, I've done my part, you know. Also, let's take a look here. Also, I did ask Microsoft Copilot, the question that I asked was, are churches private property? And it says, yes, in most cases, churches are legally considered private property, even if they are often open to the public for worship. Their private status comes from ownership, control, and the ability to set rules for access and behavior. And then it goes on to state that, bottom line, a church is private property with public facing activities. This means they can ask someone to leave. They can set their own rules. They are not government owned spaces. So again, I think that's just important information to know, because I don't think that's information that somebody would just look up, you know. So I just wanted to sprinkle a little bit of extra information in there. And we have come to the conclusion of this video. So again, if you're watching, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And also do me a favor, please leave a comment after the video ends. Let's have a discussion in the comments. Do you agree that Don Lemon was arrested, or do you think that he was well within his rights to film the protests that took place inside of that church in Minnesota? Once again, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Zone864TV. Make sure you follow me on Rumble, Zone864TV. I'm out. Thank you for watching. Peace.